day today, but we're really excited to be here. And it was a full moon yesterday, so I think my energy is a little bit different today. So, hey, it's going to be fun. If you don't know, I'm Lora or Oda, and I own a virtual assistant project management agency that helps small businesses behind the scenes get the stuff done that they really don't like, maybe just don't want to do, is full support to a business so they can grow, but also be able to delegate that work out. Unfortunately, Angelique is not here with us today. She's here in spirit, and I'm sure she's probably watching from where she is. But she had a prior engagement and would have loved to have been here, but she's not. So she will be here in spirit. And Angelique, same thing. She owns a virtual assistant and project management agency, and that's how we came about. So Fempreneurs is really about non-compete. How can we support each other? What does your business look like different from mine? We work together with each other's clients and within each other's businesses with that full mindset of there's enough for everyone. So that is what Fempreneur is really here for. And we have a wonderful guest today who is also there with us. And her name is Dominique. She is a gifted energy conductor and geo-love healer, possesses an innate ability to perceive the flow of gold energy within herself and others. Her expertise goes beyond energy healing. She's a soul map guide, helping individuals identify their source-given gifts for personal and business success. With her innovative approach, Dominique empowers clients to integrate their unique strengths into their 3D reality. Her holistic mastery in personal development and soul-led business aligns perfectly with her transformative talk on soul-led magic, navigating business with higher awareness. Through her workshops and creative methods, she guides individuals toward balanced, fulfilling lives, embracing the essence of her summit message. Welcome, Dominique. We're so glad to have you here today.
Thank you.
How's your day going?
Pretty good. Thank you.
Yeah. We were just saying, or I was saying the full moon, and we were talking about it yesterday. I was like, oh, you gotta put your crystals out and do all this stuff and get it going. And then I was like, I didn't even sit and set intentions or do anything. So I was giggling last night when I was like, are we supposed to be rushing to get this done? So it's been very interesting, kind of the energy in the world today. And I'm so glad to have you here.
Thank you.
Talk about how our guests are always kind of, you guys schedule yourselves, and it always seems to go right in the flow that it needs to. So the universe is definitely divinely guiding us. So I love it. But I just kind of wanted to start off today, since we are a little bit different, just to discuss in your business what you do, a little bit more understanding of it, and then we can get into some of the juicies.
Yeah, for sure. So in my business, I basically use the energy. So I will use your energy, the energy of the universe, and all the beautiful things and modalities that I've learned. And then I bring back all that energy within yourself. And then I identify through the soul map your gifts. And then those gifts usually are easy to understand. But because we're humans and we like to rationalize and we like to stick to our head and the how, so I try to help you not being in the how, but being in the knowing, the inner knowing. So everything that I do is all about connecting you back to the core of the whole of who you are, so that you can really get those inner answers to work for you in the 3D.
Love it. It's beautiful. I know we've talked about when I was younger, I had these gifts and stuff, but as I hit that teenage age, it was one of those, I'm done. I'm terrified. It's bad. I used to physically get affected of stuff that happened in my dreams. So it was just a real cutoff moment in my world. And then when I came into business a few years ago, it was all over again. That whole journey came all flying back up. And we hear a lot that business, certain life events, but especially business, the ongoing life event really seems to pull us into that journey. Have you always felt that energy, or do you think this has kind of come about through the years, through time? Is it through business? an idea of.
I've always had it. I mean, we all have gifts. I'm not special. We're all special. So um I guess I used them all of my life, but without using um the correct words, if I can say it. Like, I wouldn't say, well, I have energy visions. I would say I'm a visionary. I can see this is where your business can be going, or this is where you could be going, right? And I wouldn't say, um, go and connect to your core. I would say, well, let's put a strategy and an action plan together. I was more using like male vocabulary, but
Mhm.
I've always done the same thing. It's just that now, I guess when you pass 50, you don't really care what people think. So for the past years, I've just been saying it's energy. It's all about energy. You don't want to believe it?
Right.
Good for you. I don't really care, but here I am when you're ready for it.
Exactly. It's funny because my whole life I'm one of those. I really don't care what people think, and obviously we do at some point. But I definitely feel that really more so now. So I'm just turned 49. I'm getting ready to come up with my Chiron next year with my human design and all that. And I was like, so if you're already in a I don't care mode about what the world really thinks, what those super changes that come in as you get older and as you grow, it really, I think, solidifies that, where it's like, oh, I just need to find my people because the rest of it doesn't matter. We said a lot
And
of,
and you don't need to find your people. Your people will find you as long as you're aligned, right?
yeah, absolutely. I love that. I still struggle with that part a little bit. We were, my, one of my women that I coaches, she did my human design, and she giggles because I'm closed. I'm all defined. Everything is defined except my ego.
Oh,
And
okay.
she was like, that makes a lot of sense. And I'm like, well, for me, and when I first heard it, for me, it was like, well, I'm not an egotistical person. I don't think of myself as, seem pretty humble, like that's not what it is. So when I first started work, like, what do you figure? And I was like, well, okay, that's not your egotistical, like that's not the way you're thinking of. It's totally different. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
great, something very new to have to really learn and dig deep into. So it was very interesting trying to, and I think I still struggle with that, obviously. Different, but I love the energy of stuff and the way it feels. Um, when you're working with clients and when you started your business and were really trying to see where your business was going to go and how it's going to work, were you collaborating and working with people and helping? We do a lot of helping and bartering, I think, within our services industry. Do you have a story of a time when you were really able to kind of help someone, really bring them along in their journey as well?
Yeah, well, so my entire journey is about collaboration. This is what I'm all about. I'm always collaborating. I believe that we all have a zone of genius, and that if we all focus on that zone of genius that is innate to us, and then surround ourselves with the ones that are going to give all the other, parts of it,
Yeah.
then we can just like be the best of who we are in. Like, I my one of my mottos is be the best I am so we can be a good we, or we can be the best we, right?
Yeah.
So when I see people that, for instance, right now in my membership, there is this one lady, she's beautiful, like she's just all heart. She speaks heart, she vibes heart, she is heart, and she does light language. And
Oh.
then there's other people in the membership that are more in their head. They want to understand Akashic. They want to understand how to vibe from their heart, but they're really rational.
Mhm.
And so I guess I help them by connecting them together so that she can teach them how to be more into the knowing, the inner knowing,
Mhm.
right? Without trying to understand where it comes from. How does it work? It just happens. So I helped her by giving, I'm very organized. So my design side is projector, and I'm
Mhm.
very aware of that. So I've helped her design workshops and design things that are aligned with her because as a light worker and as a light language practitioner and healer, she's not very connected to the 3D, but this is where we live,
Mhm.
right? We don't live, not yet, anyways, we don't live on Mars. So
Right.
her clients are here. So I helped her staying connected to herself, connected to the earth, and do things that are going to work with her gifts here. And then help her being connected with other people within my own community. And then now they're using her as their coach to learn how to connect. But she's also using 3D things so that they actually understand
Mm.
how they're going about all the teachings. I
Yeah.
hope I answered your question.
No, you did, because and you said it in the beginning, collaboration. Like, and when I first came into business, there was still kind of that line of we knew networking and business and the way it was going to work was changing, and that was part of bringing in the agency was I see that change. I'm traumatized from corporate. I hate the model. I hate the idea. I hate it in such a way. It was a great experience. It taught me a lot, but it definitely taught me a lot more of the things I really didn't want in my future, in my business, in my world. Like, it cleared me out of all the things I didn't want. That was for sure. um and though I was blessed to have that experience, I'm grateful that I moved past it. Because I wasn't always grateful. I had to learn, like, okay, we get it was traumatizing, you work through it, but this is now where you're at, it's the other side, and it gave you a lot in what it was. But what I also noticed was the change in how we network, how we're doing business, how people are growing, and what's really happening. And we were all used to be very individual, and now it is that collaboration, bringing people in together that can really help, seeing like, this is what I do, this is where expertise is here, but I have other resources for all the other things that may be needed, because that collaboration, knowing all those people to help, like, just really, I love the way that changed, and how we see that, how that energy works and that collaboration together. So um, I think women are changing the world. So it's being noticed a whole lot more. That's my opinion. And we all tell the guys we love our gentlemen that follow us and everything else, but we are very women centered. And there's a reasoning for that, with the statistics of when women succeed, our communities succeed more. There's more that goes into and out when our businesses are succeeding. It definitely goes out further, and the energies and the sharing seems to do better. Um, so we do love our guys, but we are women centered. I'm sorry, gentlemen. So we'll never be rude, but with that women focus, and knowing that that empowerment that comes in with that collaboration, I'm enjoying seeing the way that the world changes, and showing, like you even saying, collaboration is huge. You know what you're doing. And I think as we go into business, we narrow down and niche down, because that's where our specialty is. And we find all the other things. Angelique and I complement each other in a massive way. Some of the things she knows that I don't know. And I'm a firm believer as a leader that I'm not the smartest one in the room, and I rely on my team in major ways because they're very smart. So that's how we run this and how we've changed it. And so I really liked what you were saying about that collaboration and bringing people in, because that really, it's huge. It's needed, especially with women. I think we're still healing and changing and figuring it out. So, but definitely. Um, when you're working with people, and you run across things where maybe the mindset's not so great, or maybe just, they're in such a struggle that there's such a blinder there. How do you, or what do you do? Like, even in your moments of, oh, I'm so unmotivated, what do you do to continue to push forward and get that motivation and re-energize yourself to see, okay, this is still good. Like,
Yeah. So I guess the human design is beautiful for that because it does give you the zones of conditioning if you want to look at more, if you don't see, right, what your shadows are, and you're really like blocked by the beliefs, then you can go and look outside and see, okay, read. This could be my potential conditioning, or this could be my potential shadow zone. And I like to take all of that information and try to use it to be empowered. So I will use, like, for instance, you told me before that you're all defined, but I'm mostly undefined. So I have almost nothing defined. So I have a lot of conditioning, like the entire society and the entire collectives thinks through me, right? I will voice what you're thinking. I will think what you're thinking. I will feel what you're thinking. And then I get to take all of that and turn it into an empowering thing instead of an overwhelming thing. And I think this is where the people that work with me or with myself, when I feel something is off, and it's so important, I'm going to say, especially as women, I think that men have this innate ability, or not men, but the ones that are more using their masculine energy,
Mm-hmm.
have the innate ability to point form things, like to kind of go A, B, C, and make logic, right? Where when you're using more your feminine energy, not that it's chaotic, but there's more of a flow to it, and that flow can seem hard to read.
Mm-hmm.
So every time I feel overwhelmed, or I feel like there's maybe too many ideas, then I start to think, what could be the conditioning? So my throat is undefined.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the times I feel like I'm not heard. This is a conditioning, because I am heard, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm speaking, you're hearing. So it's just a conditioning. So
Yeah.
what can I do? Well, I can organize my ideas better to make sure that I'm not going to go all over the place, because I channel. So I
Mm-hmm.
can get all over the place,
Sure.
right? But if I know this of me, then I'm going to organize my ideas to make sure that I don't go into that shadow zone. I'm going to call it shadow just so that it's easy. But
Mm-hmm.
I do believe that every single thing, feeling, um, not lessons, but whatever happens in your life has a way to empower you. Like, you were in corporate, you didn't like it, but now you took everything that you learned to know what you don't want to do. But you
Mm-hmm.
also learn how to organize yourself. You cannot be an agency if you're not organized in the things that you know how to do.
Yeah.
And you've learned to work in things that you're aligned, because corporate taught you how to do things that you're not aligned with, and to do them just because someone had an agenda and it needs to be done. So
Yeah.
you took all of these things, and instead of saying, I hate it, I hate it, I hate it, I'm never going to do it again, now in the business you have now, you've learned how to own them
Mm-hmm.
and bring them back within your body. So be the best I am. Learn
Mm-hmm.
about the external conditioning, and you work them to be empowered. So this is how I do it, right? I see the places where I'm not feeling it, and then I'm saying, okay, why are you not feeling it? What are you going to do to not be disempowered by that and actually being empowered by this?
Mm, I love it, because that's a great. You wouldn't get there. I think a lot of times people will throw in the towel and be like, "Oh, it's too much," and especially if you're starting in your journey. I remember the beginning; it was, the overwhelm was like, "I'm trying to start a business and a journey. Like what?" But that overwhelm can definitely be targeted, or lack of a better word, what is that? I can't target it into what it needs to be, which is always great. Now, we do know that not everybody, will take that. Sometimes we get stuck in that real negative, this is terrible, what's going to happen, this is all I knew, or anything else. Do you work around that? Like, how do you guide people around kind of those extra, when the negative is really, really just digging in for
Well,
them, stuff like that?
so I start every journey by getting the person to really know themselves. Like, it's not only about knowing your human design,
Mm-hmm.
it's knowing how it works on the whole spectrum. It's knowing how your gifts show up, because there's a lot of people that that go through these exponential journeys, like they start their awakening and then they crash because they weren't ready. They didn't think about clearing. I'm gonna use it like as a container, right? Like when you have a container and you start pouring water in it, eventually the water is going to start flooding out. And when we don't see and we're too much into the everything's going wrong for me, it's because we didn't take the previous water out. We didn't drip. Like, you know, a plant, you need to put the little holes at the bottom so that the water is going to drip. But then you also need the proper lighting so that the soil doesn't mold. It's the same thing with us, you know? And how do you do that is by knowing yourself so much. It's not egocentrical to understand how you function. It's not egocentrical to one day to tell your small kids, you know what, today I can't be making you five, you know, homemade juice and playing and putting all the Legos back together that you just threw on the floor because you felt like it. It's not, you know, but it's really important to know you so much that you can say, okay, so I'm not responding from, how can I say this? Like, my kids are older, but I remember when they were young, I had a lot of kids. They were very needy. They always wanted to be around me. And I'm not very good with that. I'm not super good with the proximity of one person. I love groups. So I knew that about me. So I would bring them into indoor parks. I was there for them, but they were entertained. They were having fun. And then at one point, I thought, well, am I doing this because I'm a bad mom? No, I'm doing this because I know myself so well that I'm wanting to be there for them, but I cannot be the whole there all the time because it's going to be too much on me. So I was respecting my own boundaries, their own boundaries, but in a way that it works for everyone. It
That
is
makes
part of my design to be very, very giving and very, very motherly, but I can't take the too much. If you don't know that about you, you're going to give, 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 give. And then when your kids are older, you're going to go, oh my God, what am I going to do now? No more kids. And then you crash, right? Because you didn't put the little hole, you didn't drip. You're
yeah.
just pouring and pouring and pouring. And this is super important. So I think that the overflow of negativity is normal when you haven't taken the time to know yourself. But while you're doing this, it's so important to give peace to your soul, you know? Put the hole at the bottom of the pot so that you can be dripping and you don't crash with the growth.
Yeah, that makes sense. I love that. Because I think that's kind of what happens that and then you get the negative that comes in because there's so much of not, what's happening. And then you crash that, oh my gosh. And then it's like, oh, this is terrible. Like, and it feels terrible where the journey doesn't have to. There are moments, and with ADHD, when you're doing the acting, where you learn how to behave around the people that you're around the most. Like, we moved and kind of pulled ourselves away from the world 6 years ago. And it was very interesting because in that moment it was, I don't know. I'm used to acting and behaving and being like the people around me all the time because I fed off of that, I guess. And I'm very much an empath and an introvert. So my energy, I was always isolated. Like I always will, like in a group, find a corner once I'm done where I'm like, yeah, I was active for a minute. And then I find that corner like, boop. I knew that, but it wasn't something I necessarily showed. Like those closest to me knew that if there was a big crowd around, you could probably find me outside of the crowd within a distance of people. But those that didn't know me, it was just like, how come Laura's always standing by herself in a corner, So I look like this weirdo, which I had to grasp. Like, yes, I'm weird. I've embraced my weirdness at this point. I'm fine with it now. But there was a moment in there where I was like, if you're not my family, if you're not close, you just don't really know. And then you start this journey and you're trying to figure out who you are. The people closest to you are the ones that usually go, oh, I don't know, you've changed, or this has happened, and stuff. And I started cutting off and walking away and realizing that I behaved this way around this person because I was reflecting. I was trying to figure out how to behave with my ADHD. So when that happened, I was like, okay, this is how I behave with this person. This is the most comfort for them. This is what works, and da. So I had like a different person for most people around me, unless you were really close to me. And then I was really just who I was. And that was a hard thing on the journey, to finally just be like, oh, around everybody, I'm just going to have to be who I am. And that's the only way this is going to really, truly work. No more of the mirroring or reflecting or figuring out, and none of that. So that, I think that was the hardest part in pushing that. And then in business, doing the same. Like, I have to be very authentic in business. I show who I am. So I get on a call with somebody who's like, oh, well, you're not super professional, and you dress up and do a full thing of makeup and maybe cutting your hair and doing this. And I get highly offended by that, because I'm like, I spent a whole lot of time coming as me, and maybe not offended, but really just clear on that. No. If that is what's going to determine whether or not I'm good enough, well, then we're good. That can end right there, because I may not show up as the most professional looking person 100% of the time, but I've got going what I've got going. It's, again, that changing of what work looks like, what business looks like, what people look like, coming in authentic and accepting that. Because I think we hear that, be authentic. And then it's like, ooh, a little less authentic, please. You're a bit strange or whatever. And I accept that. And I always giggle like, yeah, probably not your person. But I think that in that business, as we're growing, where we're talking about change in business and how the world is moving and what it looks like, I think a lot of that comes from us finding ourselves, the authentic, but how do you really do it? Like, it is a lot to really sit down and get super clear with yourself. Do you find those challenges with people and their journeys as well, like helping them through that? Like, let's get real. Or do you call them out? I guess maybe that's more what I would say. Have you ever had to just be like, I know that you're full of it right now. Okay.
When you come and work with me, the first thing we do is the human design. So I know you. I know you inside out. Of course, there's nuances, because nothing is an absolute, but I know where you're coming from. I know what you are here for. I know what your purpose is. I know what your spiritual purpose is. I know like what your money gates are. I know everything, right? And then it's for me to really get to know you. Who are you right now in this moment? And how can we go towards the most aligned person you are, you actually want to be, because you also have to be ready for this work. So I am a very direct person. And I believe that the people that come with me, this is what they want. They are bored of being told you're going to make $10,000 in 4 months, because I will tell you, you're not going to make $10,000 in 4 months unless you're already there.
Right.
If
you're part of the 1% that works for, we cheer you on, and we want to know every secret you have. But for the rest 99% of us that doesn't work for, like.
And everybody can get there, but you need to be aligned. And how are you going to be aligned if you don't know who you are? So anyone that comes in my world, the first thing they do is they get their human design read. No. And then if they want to go further, we can get the Enneagram. If you feel like it, we get the soul map. If this is what you want, we get that container ready, so that whatever it is that you're working through, or whatever it is that you feel that you're not getting, you actually understand the why from an I am standpoint. Because you cannot be an effective we if you don't understand the I am. Mm-hmm. And again, it's not an egocentric thing. It's because we are part of a collective. We have no choice in that. Everything is energy. Energy is everything. We have no choice in that, but you have a choice in everything else. How much do you want to be part of that? And
Right.
how aligned do you want to be? How hard do you want it to be? And when you understand that it doesn't have to be hard, well, how much work are you going to put into it? And this is where we come with all honesty, and we work onto those things in all honesty. If I don't have 12 hours a day to work on my business, well, I'm going to do whatever I have to do. I will work too. If
Yeah.
I only have half an hour, I will work half an hour, but from my heart, with love, with
Mm-hmm.
faith, and not thinking, oh my God, I only have half an hour. This is where I call people out. This is
Mm-hmm.
where I tell them, like when they're always shaming themselves, I'm like, yeah, you're not in the right place. We're all where we need to be. Divine timing is a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing yourself within that, being honest with yourself is super important. And you know what? Authenticity is the new exchange, it's the
Mm-hmm.
new currency. If you're not authentic, people are not going to trust you. If they don't trust you, they don't give you their money.
Mm-hmm. Have you had to figure or discuss maybe expectations of, I guess, clearing out expectations when you're helping and you're supporting people? We struggle with expectations, in the service that we do, because sometimes it could take somebody longer to do something than it takes somebody else. Like there's different expectations that we deal with. How do you deal with that? And I guess maybe it's not expectations, again, lack of a better word. But the idea of they come in with a set mind, and you're helping through these journeys with them, but with that set mind, there's a lot of breaks that have to happen in there. So how do you?
So I'm a 5-1.
Hmm.
For those who know human design, and the 5 comes with the hero energy, where when people come to me, they have this perception that I can save them. I don't save anyone. We all have our own energy and our own, expectation of life. And it took a lot of work on me to
Mhm.
make peace with that.
Yeah.
I have felt responsible for everybody around me for so long. And I think that when I stopped that, and my energy really aligned with the fact that I know things. I
Mhm.
channel things. I read all the time. I'm a 5-1. Like I will talk, I will research, and then I will talk, and then I will research, and I will talk, and then I will research. I will do the work. If I understand it and I can embody it and turn it into wisdom, I will talk about it. If I don't do that, I won't talk about it. And when the people that come into my circle, they know that if I'm telling you I'm going to help you operate your business, I'm not going to get you clients. I'm only going to do the operation. Now, if you want to get clients and you think I'm going to get you clients, this belongs to you. It doesn't belong to me.
Right.
So I think that to answer your question, the fact that I am so clear with where I stand and what I want to do, and also in my own business, every year during the month of July, my month of July is January for me. I realign. I don't realign, but I reassess everything that I'm doing. And I make sure that I'm still aligned, because authenticity for me and honesty are my values. So if I'm giving you things that are not aligned with me, then I'm not being true to myself. And if I'm not true to myself, I'm not true to you.
Right.
And if you're going to bring me some financial income for me to help you, I want to make sure we're clear. So expectation, but your expectations don't belong to me.
Hmm. Yeah.
And as a VA agency, it's really hard, because you're giving these people time, like your work that you cannot do, because if you could do it, you'd do it yourself,
Hmm.
and you want it done. But maybe in the expectations, it's not so much in my expectation, but in more in how I communicate it, how fast I need it,
Hmm.
you know? So there's communication I think it's one of the biggest problem in the world. Not much the expectations, but the communication.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And it's not only about signing contracts. I mean, sometimes I'll do a 30-minute reading for people and they don't listen to the video. And then they come on the calls and they have no idea what we're talking about when we're talking about centers or gates. And I'm like, seriously, dude, like I just spent an hour getting your chart, doing your report, doing the video. You didn't even listen to it. So you're not committed. I'm not sure I really want to work with you. But I'm so clear about that, that the people that come in my world, they do the work. They
Yeah.
show up. And if they don't show up, they're not on camera. When
Mm-hmm.
you come in my membership, if you go on camera, you're ready to be called out.
Mm-hmm.
With all my heart. I want everybody to succeed, but I can't show up for you. And that is so clear. I can't go and get your clients. You
Right.
know, like if you have a certain design, you can go and handpick your clients. If you have another kind of design, you should be on stage. If you have another kind of design, you're meant to be working one-on-one. These things are written in the chart. It's your choice. I can channel an entire soul map for you. After you have that information and it's understood, it's your choice. So your expectations are also your choice in
Amazing.
my world.
I love it. I think, and that's beautiful because I think that goes along with the journey where you, again, the things that you have to learn or have to learn again, like that word, should, same as should, but the things that you're learning along the way to get you to where you're going. I think we get kind of stuck in this is what I chose. I put the energy, the time, everything. This is how it looked. This is how it planned out. And then we kind of get stuck in our own idea of change. Like I maybe don't want to change that, um, or I've just done so much, it would be a waste to kind of walk away now or to take a different path, things like that. And I think we fight that a
But
lot.
that's when you're not aligned, right, Laura? I mean, if you're a manifesting generator, you will change your mind all the
Mhm.
time, and it's all beautiful. You
I'm
know,
an
if
emotional one, so
you're,
I have to literally, I
and
have to
so in
sleep
being,
24 hours, right? Like sleep on it. It was
yeah,
my,
and if you're an emotional and you don't ride that wave, you're not going to be aligned. And if you're a generator, well, you're going to go, 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 go without stopping. So if you chose something that didn't align, you're going to feel overwhelmed. It's just, and again, like human design is not the only tool. It's a beautiful tool that gives you so many responses and ways of doing things. At the end of the day, you still have to choose to do it. You still
yeah.
have to choose to understand. And understanding does not mean, well, now I read that a generator is this, and this is the profile. I read that it's this. This is the center. No, 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 no. Taking all of that and turning it into yourself and living it is a totally different story.
Yeah. Can you tell us your story of that? Just kind of where that journey went for you and how it really truly shaped where you were going, or maybe some bumps along the way, or
Yeah, well, I mean, I have lived every single thing that people are like, yeah, I wish I wouldn't have to live that. I've lived them all. You know, like bankruptcy, psychopath, business partner, every single thing that anyone can think of, I lived it. But I lived it for the collective. Now I understand,
yeah.
right? When I was living it, I didn't understand. When I was younger and I would like say to someone, I'm moving to Brazil, they're like, why? I don't know. I'm just moving. And then I'd be gone the next day. When I was younger, I didn't understand why I was doing it. I would just do it. Or I was like walking, I worked in hotels most of my life, and then or in bars. And I would walk into a hotel and they're like, there's a project to do here. And I like walk in and I had that feeling of, I don't want to work here. And I just turn around. People are like, you're so not, like you're going to make us lose money. And I would just say, you're going to lose money anyways. And I turn around and leave. Now I know why. But when I was younger, I didn't. I just honored my gut responses. But as you grow, and this is reality, there's other people that come into your circle, your kids, your parents getting older, and now your um, responsibilities or your responses have somebody else attached to it, and it makes a whole difference because now you're not by yourself. And I think that when I stopped listening to my gut, everything started going wrong. When I started taking things for the money, everything went wrong. When I started thinking too much and not feeling enough, everything started going wrong. I still had all of these gifts,
Mm-hmm.
but I let the conditioning of the society and the way the society was working and what I was hearing other people were doing and being influenced by outside sources influence who I was. And so your intuition is always going to take the back corner because it's your intuition is very subtle
Mm-hmm.
and society is very loud. And so I was listening more to society than my intuition. Everything went wrong. And when I
Yeah.
say everything, everything, there is nothing that went right for at least 25 years
Wow.
until I said, okay, so I had it all figured out before.
Mm-hmm.
And now everything I do seems to be going wrong. The hell, you know? And instead of going into the shame and the guilt, I just went back to my gut without knowing why. I'm a pure generator. I just did what I was meant to do. And everything started going right again. And every
Mm-hmm.
time I need to make a decision and I start in my head, not in my gut, it goes wrong. Every time I'm thinking about everybody else but me, it goes wrong. It's part of me, right? But we
Yeah.
still do it.
Oh
What
yeah.
is the what is the solution is to not go into the shame and guilt and go back to your heart and say, okay, I did it again and laugh about it and then move on and do something better.
Yeah. I think that I love that part of you say is that you go back to it, you say, and there's an admission there. There's like a recognition, like crap, I did it again. How many times am I going to repeat this? It could be 100, 200 more times. Like you really can't. But every time that acknowledgement of, yes, I did it again. Okay, let's start again or let's move forward. And I like that idea because I think we get stuck on, we've learned it. Why do I keep doing this? And for me, I had to come out of that cycle completely because, yes, I've learned it. But my mom used to say I was a glutton for punishment. I'm a very stubborn person as a Taurus. So I tend to be like, oh no, apparently the lessons need to be learned 4 or 5 or 6 times before it really goes, oh yeah, okay, I'll pay attention now. Like, okay, you must really mean that. Like I was that kid that was like, you didn't mean no, right? I can convince you of yes. And I think I used to do that with my spirit guides and stuff too. Like, you told me no, but I'm going to remind you that I think this could be a yes. And
Yeah.
I'm gonna show you, right? So I love that because I think in our journeys we kind of get stuck on the supposed to, the shoulds, the how come you haven't, and all those questions, or how come, you've got all this stuff to do. With the ADHD, there's a lot more of that sometimes when I'm in executive dysfunction and I'm going, I have to get this done. But there's a physical, there's that disconnect there where it becomes extremely difficult. I can get quickly lost in the negative of that, and the fear and the scared and the why your client just needs this, and those kinds of things. Then I quickly changed my business, and why we became the agency was because when I'm in executive dysfunction, the ability to have a team and people working with the clients already means that I can have that moment, but things can still move forward. So that initial change when I first started this, it was just me and things, I was struggling with that. As a late, I knew I had it before corporate, but it wasn't discussed in corporate and I didn't show it. I was able to find a way to mask so nobody knew what was really going on. Coming into business brought it all up to the forefront. Like,
Yeah.
you have executive dysfunction, you have time management problems, you have time blindness. Like, there are definite things. And I used to feel all the time, I used to tell my husband, like, where did the time go? Did I float somewhere? Where did I go? And I swear there's moments where I'm like, I'm sure I was somewhere else. People can walk in a room and I'll be staring at a wall and it's dead silent. They're like, are you bored? Like, no, something was going on. What you saw was what you saw, but apparently something was happening because I was intrigued. I was all involved with whatever was happening here. So it's interesting when we look at those journeys and those shoulds and the expectations and stuff, and removing all of those things as we work through those journeys. So and allowing the change. I think, again, that stiffness of this is how it was in corporate. This is how life is supposed to be. This is how you're supposed to believe and how you're supposed to do. And you get that tension. And when you start to release and be like, oh, yeah, none of that makes any sense to me, you know, I had my mom was very open. So we were open spiritually. I am Jewish by culture, by blood. We learned it. I know it. But it's always been more spiritual. And we were given that gift and that allowance to not have to follow or be indoctrined into very specific religious beliefs. I don't have those kinds of things that I had to work through because I've been super open for that stuff my whole life. Like, I'm a sponge for that. And I love the differences. So I've learned everybody's. So it's like, I'll go with you to synagogue, to mosque, to Buddhist temple. Like, I was that one that was always open for that. So I was your journey like that too? I know that you were young. Were you always really open? Did you have a religious part that you had to break, or understandings?
I grew up in a Catholic environment. I do believe that any religion in the world is beautiful, but has its potential of creating a lot of beliefs and trauma that for some reason, decide to embody, right? So in the Catholic religion, I do believe that there's a lot of worthiness beliefs that are put. I mean, I wouldn't know in the Jewish, right? But I know for my given religion, because I didn't pick it, somebody picked it for me.
Mhm.
There's a lot of worthiness issues, like they tell you need to give, you have to give, and you're not worthy if you don't give, but you're also not worthy because you shouldn't keep.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of things that are said in ways that will create shame and guilt, um, and that make you worthy more the other than your own self.
Mhm.
So yeah, I did grow up with that. It still affects me. I mean, I don't believe that the things that have affected you in your youth will not affect you when you're old. It just affects you in a different way. It affects me in the way that I'm aware, and it's frustrating that it comes back. But I can say, I see you. I don't
Mhm.
need you. Thank you. Have a good day. Where before I used to get completely involved with it. And I went bankrupt once because of that worthiness issue. Now I can recognize it,
Mhm.
but I didn't recognize it then. I was thinking, well, I'm not good in business, but I am good in business. It
Right.
was a whole different thing. It's like I was giving money that I didn't, I was giving money to charities because they need it more than I did.
Mhm.
And eventually, well, it costed a business. That's a while back. I was like 18.
Yeah.
But still, I do believe that every single religion puts in us a lot of those things, and that it's beautiful when you can look at also all the beautiful teachings that there is. I
Mhm.
got all my collective teachings from the religion,
Yeah.
and I've studied the books, the religious book, all of them, because there's so many knowledge that you can get from that. But I didn't study them from where are the traumas created. I study it from a higher standpoint.
Yeah.
So
I love that.
being more loving with what we've received makes it a lot easier to deal with it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's beautiful because again, we hear this all the time, as growth, and we're coming into our feminine energy and we're moving along, and this comes to the forefront of those questions of how this moves forward, how you work in that, and where your masculine energy was. I was very much in my masculine energy growing up, working with teenagers, working in corporate, doing the things that I did because I was teaching accountability. I was teaching life social skills. I was teaching get real, stop BSing, we're done. I was the harsh one that had to like rip the band-aid off. And I was very much in that for a long time, but it came very much from that masculine energy. I definitely feel the difference is now I move into more of that. Um, I know when I need to get done. I know when to go into that masculine and be like, I got to get stuff done. This is how I'm going to be. This is the mindset for now. But I definitely have learned to utilize that more feminine side that I was not clear on for a very, very long time. Your feminine side is your sensitive. And nobody's ever mistaken me for being a bit sensitive. Like my poor son used to tell him, sorry, your parents are not sensitive people. Like we're very matter of fact, I'm just very direct. So I've learned to work with that more. And it's those journeys, like when you're like, what does this mean to you? Or what do you want to do with it? I like my feminine side, but I still tend to stay very much in that masculine side because for me, that's business. That's getting shit done, right? I've got to get shit done, and I go into this, and I still have it integrated very easily, or well, yet the feminine, masculine. That though that's still my journey that I'm trying to figure out for sure, is to allow my feminine side to be a little bit more there and really present. So it's definitely. Again, the learning curve and the different things that what you're learning
and it's all a balance, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think
a balance doesn't mean that it's going to be 50-50. Maybe, you have a VA agency. There's a lot of masculine energy in there, but the way you talk to your team is probably more on your feminine side. Maybe you're just not looking at where you're using your feminine because you have an expectation.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Oh yeah, expectation. That's the harder part because it's a client attached to it. So there's an expectation of something there, but yeah, where it goes and working through it. So I find it very interesting. But it's still, that journey and really helping is always the end result. With all my clients, like, well, we're going to get this figured out. That's the whole point. Like, it's going to get figured out. This, we're going to do this. We're going to do like in the end, that result will happen. The process in there is going to look however it looks. So I'm like, between me and me, and even not our clients don't all work the same. So I guess that always is very interesting because I tell everybody your business doesn't look like the next, and we can't set things up to work this way very specifically for every person because you don't run your business that way, and that person doesn't run that business that way. So we get to be with the water wave through your business. Like, we're going to help you whichever way it is you're going. How do you want this to go? So it's still them learning themselves and moving forward and, learning, for us, learning delegation, which is hard. People want to think boss. I don't want to be a boss. I want to be bossy, right? So we change those mindsets where it's like, you're not being bossy. Delegate.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
Yeah. I love it. Well, thank you so much. I'm really glad we were able to get you on. I got my computer going and get you on today and have you here. I love what you're doing for businesses. You clearly have a heart for what you're doing in those journeys of bringing people, bringing them out of who they are, your influence of who you are, not putting that on them. I think that is a big thing when people are on their journey and they're working through stuff, is that we have to, as the coach, you have to keep yourself out of it, but you're really guiding them. So it is a difficult thing. I love our coaches. All the time, I'm not a coach. I love our coaches, and you guys have an amazing purpose here because it is so necessary. So I say to everybody, find the coaches you need, find what you need in your business. We all need something. If we're just doing it ourselves, thinking we know it, then yeah, we might be really hurting ourselves in our business. So find the resources you need. Everyone knows I'm big for that. So what do you need? And obviously conversations. We can also do introductions and stuff. I was looking at when you were talking, I was looking to see what your offer was to the group, and I didn't see it in there, and I apologize. So if you wanted to let them know what that is, I'll make sure all the information is in the show notes for them to reach you in order to get that done. But if you wanted to go over what you were offering the group today, sorry.
No, no worries. So I have it's a branding checklist to make sure that your brand is authentic to you. So it's a checklist that has kind of like a guidelines. You receive an email giving you an afterthought because after you've done the work, so here's your coach, your little email that's going to say, so how's this? Did you think about this? So like an extra layer to make sure that what you are providing for the world is actually authentic to you, because when people come and work with you, they want to work with who they've seen and who they are perceiving or expecting. This is where you set your expectations and having a very, very clear message of the whole of who you are so that people pick you for what you really are and not the facade. Because let's be honest, it's time to drop. If you still have one, drop it.
Yeah.
It's
Definitely.
passe. It's like,
Everybody follow that advice because it's so absolutely true. I mean, that authenticity that needs to come through. Um, and I did say need because that is a need. You have to
it
be
is.
authentic. It is an absolute need. So I do say that. I didn't say should, but I do say need. You need to find your authenticity. And I love that you said that because that is 100%. And it's difficult. You learn who your people are and are not, and that's okay. So going through that journey and all of it, especially if you're starting a business, you have a family going through things, there's trauma in there. um, Embrace your journey. Let's have fun. You guys could join us every week and talk with people. The amazing gifts that come on, or that are given out here in this podcast, and the amazing people and guests that come on. It really, it makes me happy. It makes me just be able to enjoy and be able to give you guys that voice and that platform. I think when Angelique and I started this, we were struggling ourselves with the support. We didn't want to steal from each other. We had the same business, but how do we work together? How do we learn to do this and be supported? But we still need to ask the questions. I needed to find somebody who's doing what I was doing. That was, that's me. That's my mindset. Like, if you're doing what I'm doing, it's easier to learn from you and for us to work and support. But we're always so concerned about who's stealing what and who's doing this and that. So the non-compete came about, and I love this because us being able to talk and have coaches on and have other people on, have other VAs in, or me and Angelique working together, it really shows that non-compete. And I appreciate your time and really showing that as well. You work with people, like we said, we've had coaches, we've had other guests on, they all line themselves up and they're similar as they go forward. But that understanding is that everybody's got a piece of this. There is no competition. So we want to encourage our listeners to really keep that in mind as we go forward.
I'm sorry.
Bless you. No.
Thank you. Sorry.
No, you're good. And I just kind of, I think it was on my heart to just say that I think going through the full moon and going through things that people are going through, I've heard a lot this summer and it's difficult. So we're all here. If you need the support, find your people, find your tribes, find what you need, and find yourself in that. So if you guys want to speak with Dominique, we will have all of her information in there. As we always encourage, definitely go into their websites, go to follow them, check them out, all of that, because you never know until you know that when your connections are there. So as you start to follow the people here on Fempreneur, you will start to see that you will find your tribe somewhere in here, and then it will continue to grow. So I'm really glad everybody's here today. I'm really glad that you were here, Dominique, and I would love to have you back when Angelique can be here too.
Yeah.
She's so excited about this stuff too. She gets forgetting, but I definitely would love to have you back and hope that we can see you all again. Real quick, everyone, we do have sponsorships. So if you're interested in sponsoring us in any way, there's different levels. Just hit us up, reach out, and we can go over that information with you, of what that might look like. So, but as it's Sorry, we went over today. I apologize. But I think we'll wrap it up. I'm so glad. And I hope you all have an amazing week. Enjoy, reach out, find your love, find your tribe, and good vibes to all of you guys. Thank you.